when my son, Justin, was just a little tot, he wanted a pet to play with. And so Stephanie and I went to the pet shop and we brought home that day a cute little floppy-eared baby bunny rabbit. Justin was so excited, he named the bunny Matthew. It was just a little fluff ball. Justin loved this little bunny instantly, so I left Stephanie and Mary, little Mary, and Justin and Matthew, the rabbit, alone in the backyard to play as I went off in my car to run an errand. I returned, and I noticed the yard was empty except the little bunny lay motionless and all alone in the grass. I discovered that Matthew was dead. His fur crumpled, his body limp. I wondered what had happened. I went into the house and found Justin broken-hearted and sobbing, sitting on the sofa with Stephanie comforting him. And they told me the whole sad story. Justin had let Matthew romp and run around in the yard. He had gotten in the swing Justin had that hung from the old huge tree limb of an oak tree. And he swung higher and higher, and Matthew had hopped underneath the swing, and just as Justin swooped down, his foot accidentally kicked the life right out of that little creature. And in an instant, Matthew died, and his fragile body had the life just dashed out of it. And Justin and Mom left the tiny body out in the yard and hurried in the house to grieve. And we all had a good cry, and then we went out to the backyard with a shoebox and a shovel and dug a shallow grave and said a few words of comfort and lay Matthew's remains in the ground, covered them. I guess that was Justin and Mary's first real encounter with death. Death was so final and so horrible, and Justin felt awful, and I hurt for him. We soon brought another little bunny home that the school had given us. But this one was one of the most ill-tempered little beasts I'd ever known. It was an attack rabbit. We got rid of that thing quick enough. The truth is, death seems so final, so absolute. Someone is living, someone is breathing, so full of life, and then through some tragedy, suddenly they're gone, their body pale. The loved ones that get left behind pick up the pieces and have to go on. We've had so much tragedy just this past week with two different families in our own church. Justin had to learn to let go, and it was a small thing, but he had to learn to move on. It was a tough first lesson for a little kid. But now let's take it and frame it in a much bigger issue than a pet. Early Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene came to the garden, to the tomb, to pay last respects. She expected to see the body. She didn't expect to see Jesus alive because she knew what had happened to him. She had seen it all. She was there at the foot of the cross. He was dead. He was buried. She came to grieve, to say one last mournful farewell. But she found that the stone had been rolled back. The tomb was empty. And your first thought would, who would do such a thing? Who would be so cruel to rob the tomb, steal the body of Jesus, humiliate his disciples even further, and desecrate the body? So she was confused. She was grief-stricken, angry, not knowing at all what happened. But the resurrected Lord approached Mary gently. Woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? I believe that Jesus had a smile on his face as he said these words. But in the morning mists and through her tears, she mistook the stranger as the gardener, the one that cared for the cemetery, the olive trees. Sir, if you've taken the body, please, sir, take me to it. I'll take it away, please. But when Jesus called her name in that familiar way, Mary, she knew. She was beside herself, flooded with joy, crazy with elation. She flung herself at Jesus, grabbed him, hugged him, embraced him. You can imagine the scene. But I've often puzzled over the words, at least the way the King James Version read it, the Bible I was reared on, when it says, touch me not. In other words, don't touch me, for I have not yet ascended to God. Has Jesus, the resurrected Lord, suddenly developed an aversion to human touch? I mean, there are people like that that just don't want to be touched. Come to church and maybe extend a hand, but don't hug. But a better translation clears it up. Modern translations say something like this: stop holding on to me, or stop clinging to me. We all have those awful moments when something is slipping away and we can't hang on. But we try even so. I've watched people at airports, maybe you've been there, embracing a loved one, refusing to let go. It's time to board the plane, especially, let's say, a young soldier in military fatigue is boarding a plane with his gear. They just don't want to let go. I've seen people not want to say that final goodbye, standing at the edge of the grave. The taste of amber fills your mouth and you're looking into something that is so final, or at the funeral parlor before they close the lid on the casket one last time. People hug with desperation and they just won't turn loose. Just a few days ago, Sue Graves and I went and visited Vera Jean, and we were there talking. Vera Jean just loves for Sue to come and lights up every time she comes. And I had a phone call, so I stepped out. And when I came back in, it was time to go. And Vera Jean was grasping Sue's hand and just wouldn't let go. Sue looked at me and said, she won't let go of my hand. I almost had to pry her loose. I said, Vera Jean, we're going to have to go. Mary collapses right at the sight of Jesus, and she wouldn't let go. She had Jesus back. She wasn't going to let him slip away again. But Jesus' words stood out to me. Stop clinging to me. Don't hold on to me. It was time to let go because Jesus had other things to do and places to be. And Mary had another important task to become the first apostle to the apostles and witness to Jesus. But those few words, stop clinging to me, took on a more profound meaning. You know, the book of Ecclesiastes, a piece of wisdom written hundreds of years before Christ, the writer wrote, there is a time for everything, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. And this was the time to refrain because the past was good, but what was coming was even better. Much in life calls us just to move on, to let go and move on. Engage the future and quit living in the past. And Jesus was saying, in effect, to Mary, this story is not over. It's only beginning. There's no going back to the way things were just 3 days ago. Everything will change. It's not going to be the same anymore. Mary desperately longed to turn the hands of time back and have Jesus just like he was before. And their little band of disciples had traveled together where Jesus had told stories. He taught the crowds. He healed sick people. He pronounced forgiveness on the guilty. He just loved people. He sat and ate and drank together with sinner and saint alike. They took boat rides, crisscrossing the lake. They gathered around campfires at night and slept under the stars. They took long walks, and Mary enjoyed the company of Jesus and his motley band of disciples. But that time had come to an end. It was not going to be the same anymore. Something new was about to happen, and the resurrection of Jesus signaled life, hope, new possibilities, resurrection. Now we all resist change. We fear the future, and often we long for the way things were. We just resist change. It's painful. It can be disorienting, threatening, scary. Our first response is, no, this cannot be happening, when something penetrates our life and explodes everything that we thought was so convenient and comfortable. We cling to the way it was, to the familiar, to the comfortable. Mary did. Her embrace, her clinging to Jesus was her concentrated prayer to go back to the way it was before. But this resurrection of Jesus event was more than a story about a Jewish man who lived long, long ago in a land far, far away who happened to come back to life again. No. In fact, the event signaled the very fulcrum of all of history. It anticipated the restoration and the renewal of all of creation. So, stop clinging to me signaled a new reality. The past does not control us. and the new possibilities lie before us. Even something so final, something so devastating as death, will not have the last word. Life will go on. Now, we remember the past, and the past often influences us. But we are not captives to the past. Sometimes people feel stuck in the past. They just quit living. They feel captive and can't imagine an active, creative God alive and active right in the present. And I think somehow that sitcom that was so popular a few years ago, Happy Days, revealed a certain American nostalgia for the way things were when it was perceived, at least, in a more stable, prosperous, and less turbulent time. And at least it was, seemingly, for some folks. But much of the energy of Make America Great Again is a longing to return to a past, at least the perception of the past, when we held dominance in the world, and for some, not all, life seemed more secure, less dangerous, and more settled. I know that many of us here in this congregation wish for the days when the church was full, when the youth group boasted 60 young people. We love the old hymns. We love traditions that remind us of happier times when the church provided the nexus of all of social life, of skating and basketball and many activities, when Little League sports did not impinge on Sundays, and when the Bible and prayer were taught in practice, maybe even in schools. I learned the 23rd Psalm in school. There are people who have lost loved ones, but act as though that person is still with them. It's just hard to let go and to quit clinging. Sometimes tragedy strikes a household and a child is taken in death, and for years the bedroom is left just the same. Every toy in place in the box. Every doll remains on the shelf. The posters continue to fade on the wall. Cribs may be left standing with a mobile of butterflies on the rail, or Little League baseball trophy collects dust on the mantle year after year. In one church I served as a pastor, a much-loved chairperson of the administrative council died, having lost a struggle with cancer. But for months his chair remained empty. They insisted, "That's Bob's chair," it was explained to me. It was a beautiful gesture, but at some point it had to be acknowledged that Bob had died, and the church goes on. "Stop clinging to me," Jesus said, is his invitation to refuse the captivating power of the past. Perhaps you did not land the job you wanted, and you're fuming about that and sad about that, and it's hard to get your head around it, but life isn't over. Perhaps you did not get the boyfriend or did not get the girlfriend that you wanted. Maybe somebody did you win. Somebody cheated you. Or maybe your spouse had an affair and the marriage just unraveled in front of your eyes and fell apart. It may seem that life is over. And the truth is, sometimes parents have failed us. And sometimes children do disappoint. One woman sexually abused by her grandfather. As a child, never married, became reclusive. Could not trust people. And although she's now in her 50s and the perpetrator is long dead, he still had his hands on her. She felt stuck and unable to move forward. Do you feel stuck today? Do you feel like a prisoner of the past? Does that past keep invading the present and controlling your future decisions? Does disappointment and loss that have occurred in the past diminish the sense that life still has purpose and the living Lord is still there for you, with you, in you, surrounding you, and has a purpose for you? God has a little exchange program worked out, and the program is simply this. Jesus has taken our past and in exchange given us his future. The resurrection of Jesus says that the past does not control us. We're not dominated either by nostalgia or by the wicked things that have happened or even by our own sins that have messed up our lives. Christ came to free us from the captivity of the past. The new possibilities lie before us because a living Jesus is still at the helm of our lives. Jesus said, "If the Son sets you free, you are free indeed." Not only from the nostalgia of the way things were, but the horrible life-distorting things that try to destroy peace and darken all hope and diminish your life. The message of Easter is about the future. A future with hope that even death cannot negate. Yes, my brother lay dying of ALS. But life isn't over. One day will be his last day here, but he'll take a step into the new chapter that will open up where every chapter is better, and the story never ends. We lost Mike Lachau. We lost Heather Lovejoy's sister. There's much sorrow. There's much grief. We grieve. That's true. But the message of Easter is about the future and about hope that even death cannot negate. Jesus always meant to leave physically. The relationship with Jesus after the resurrection and his ascension to God would be different, but not worse, better. It would be far more expansive. He would be more present to us and available everywhere at all times. In fact, in John's Gospel, Jesus had forewarned his disciples with these words, I am going away, but it's good for you that I go away. For if I didn't go away, the Comforter would not come. New possibilities. It's good that I go away. Jesus conferred the Holy Spirit, initiated world missions, spread the church, sent spiritual gifts, and infused the church, and promised to be with us always, even until the end of the age. So stop clinging to the past. The past does not define us. Sin, failure, disappointment, and horrid circumstances. The past does not define us or delimit us, nor does past glory and past adventures and past joys continue to just be the only thing we have to look back to. Faith helps us stop clinging and look to the new thing that God will do. Thanks be to God.